I'm Dan Dunkevich. Welcome to The Briefing. Today, we're asking, why is Bernie Sanders calling for an AI moratorium? Now, if you hadn't noticed, he had tweeted out a video calling for a moratorium on AI data center development so that society and government could catch up. What does this mean? Is this just standard Bernie calling for a stop to every new innovation, or is it something else? Now, politicians, they know how to detect the winds of change of public opinion. It turns out, two polls elucidate this. One in China, where 83% of Chinese citizens believe that AI will be good for humanity. Now, you may just say, all right, well, they're brainwashed by all of the controlled media from the government, all the propaganda. But in America, only 39% of the people think that AI will be good for humanity, meaning 61% of Americans think that AI will be bad for humanity. That's weird in two ways. Number one, 61% of Americans agreeing on something is kind of hard to come by. Second, Americans are generally not anti-technology. This is something a little different. So why is that? And it comes to the rise of the AI doomer, those who think AI is doom. There's a great piece of research done by a person named Neeraj Weisblatt. I'll link in the description. It's called the AI Existential Risk Industrial Complex, also as a doomer industrial complex. These are hundreds of different groups that are all pushing this narrative that AI is going to be the end of us all. But the thing is, these hundreds of groups are not hundreds of individual grassroots groups. No, they're actually linked to just four people. You've got Facebook's co-founder, Dustin Moskovitz, Skype's Jan Tolinin, Ethereum creator Vitalik Buterin, and FTX founder Sam Brinkman-Fried. Together, these four people have given more than $1 billion to hundreds of nonprofits with all kinds of names that sound almost the same. Slight little differentiations, the Institute for Study of AI Societal Impact, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, what do these groups do? Well, they fund research by PhDs to look into why AI might be bad. They fund media outlets and quote-unquote journalists to popularize the same, talking about how it's killing jobs and how all these terrible things are already happening. They're not so much about how the future is going to be terrible, but how it's bad now. But are these reports true? Let's start with jobs. Recent report by Vanguard. It's 20, 30 pages of prospectus of what Vanguard thinks the economy is going to do. Inside it, however, it had a section on AI, specifically about jobs that were exposed to AI. So that could be a software programmer, that could be an accountant, anybody wherein AI might get into what they actually do. So not so much someone who is, say, in construction, perhaps, or in auto manufacturing on the line right now. It's not really impacting in that spot. But if your job is impacted by AI today, what did they find? First, they find that job growth is up 1.7%. versus the broader economy at 0.8%, so double job growth. Okay, wages up 3.8% versus 0.7%. So what's that, 5 times higher? So double the job growth and 5 times the wage growth if your job is exposed to AI. Hence, AI is creating jobs directly and paying more. So it doesn't fit that narrative at all. There's also the Yale Budget Lab. And they concluded recently that AI hasn't caused any job disruption yet. There is no data to support the assertion that it has. And looking to the future, half of our projected U.S. GDP growth is going to come from AI. So the idea that AI is killing jobs now or is likely to kill jobs in the near future is pretty much just made up. There's no data behind this. We got some doomers that are pushing this idea. Well, what about other problems? What about energy costs? We've heard this, that in areas where AI data centers are going up, we have energy costs going up, and this is really hurting the middle class and lower class. Is that true? Well, is it? Well, AI data centers generally, where do you put these things? You certainly don't put them in Southern California where the energy costs are really, really high. And those are the areas where the energy costs are already high, where the energy tends to rise the fastest. And they have nothing to do with AI, so that's a red herring. And a lot of AI data centers bring their own production. When xAI built their Colossus near Memphis, it deployed with 35 gas turbines capable of producing over 400 megawatts, everything the system actually needed. Now that stated, they don't use them entirely. They draw between 150 and 300 megawatts from the Tennessee Valley Authority, the TVA. So some people say, hey, look, TVA prices have been going up. They're increasing. See, there it is. It's Colossus that did that. But he said it's not true, because those increases were proposed, approved, and planned in 2023 before Colossus was built. Colossus was built in 2024. So that's another total red herring. It's not what's actually going on here. There may be some effects, but that's not the core thing that's going on. Furthermore, these companies that are building AI data centers, their biggest cost is electricity, and they're doing everything they can to figure out how to use less of it. What about water usage? You get these reports that drains rivers dry. Well, there's a little bit of truth to that, but it's temporary. So water usage is an artifact of some early deployments, because these things, you're putting all this power into a small area. Remember our last briefing, we talked about these racks using 50,000 watts in a rack that, about the size of a refrigerator. And you got to cool that thing, all right? So you use this huge water cooling system. You got to pull that heat out, and then you have to dissipate that heat. And so one easy way to do that is to be by a river. Sure, that is a possible thing. But the thing is, these factories are already moving to closed loop systems and using recycled water cooling, because it's more effective, and it's more efficient, and it's better environmentally, and they make better profit when they get there. So this is trending towards being a non-issue. So, in general, think about this for a moment. Maybe AI is getting a little faster. We're not really sure how it's going to go and all that kind of thing. Maybe we should take a pause and figure it out before we go leaping into this giant new world. I could see why you might think that. But there's 3 reasons why that doesn't work. Reason number 1 is that technology is unpredictable. So at the inception of every major technology revolution, numerous publications predicted the impact of these revolutions. The automobile was going to cause this, or the computer was going to cause that. The thing is, these predictions are uniformly wrong. We're always wrong. I don't care how smart you are or how experienced you are, you're going to be wrong, because technology is disruptive. In the future, you can't predict what's going to actually happen or when it's going to actually happen. So if you think that slowing down a tech revolution like AI so that you can figure it out and be prepared for it, it's a fool's errand. It never works. It can't work. That's because the unknown unknowns dwarf the knowns and the known unknowns, to quote Don Rumsfeld from about 20 years ago. So you're not going to actually know. You're going to be wrong anyway. So you really just need to go with it and figure it out as you go, as a society. Second, we can't control China. So the CCP is not going to join our moratorium. Heck, 83% of their people think this is great. They're not going to do that. So who's more dangerous? U.S. companies that must submit to the U.S. government, or the CCP, who's immune to our desires? We do not have choice of free-for-all or managed development. We have the choice of free-for-all where we lead, or free-for-all where we do not participate. Now, the second one would be Russia. Third one, rather. Russia. Don't forget them. So in my nearly 20 years of experience at NASA working with the Russians, I can say a few things about Russians. I mean, I love them. I have good friends there. They're creative. Russians are great mathematicians and great artists as well. They can solve problems, and AI at the end is simply a big old mathematical problem. They're good at this. They're also incredibly good at figuring out how to make something work with less resources than you would expect. So don't count them out. And an underreported reality is that AI in Russia is working hard to join the race. I mean, China, Huawei, is building AI chips. They need a market. Russia has oil. China needs oil. You don't think this is already happening there? So if we don't do anything, then Russia will. You only need to look at Ukraine to know what happens if Russia has an upper hand. So in brief, all that you're hearing about these AI moratoriums, they're being pushed by just a few people with a specific agenda, and it's being obfuscated to look like a grassroots initiative when it is not. And that's the brief.